What's up, wrestling fans? I'm Steven from the Hills Maniacs, and these are my predictions for WWE's next upcoming pay-per-view, the first ever two-night edition of SummerSlam. So the way this works is I'm going to be running down the card from both nights. There are, as of right now, as of this recording, there are 6 matches on night 1 and 6 matches on night 2 for a total of 12. Similar to what they did to WrestleMania and everything. So I'm just going to give my kind of thoughts and theories on what I think is going to happen, how the matches are going to play out, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to start off with possibly the most random tag team match I think I've ever seen put to screen in professional wrestling. Randy Orton and the Rockstar Jelly Roll versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. Or it may not even be Drew McIntyre, because apparently he was having travel issues or something last week. And at the time of this recording, I don't know if that has been resolved yet or not. I didn't really see anything about it, so it might not even be Drew McIntyre involved in this match. But I honestly couldn't care less about this match. I'm just going to say Randy Orton and Jelly Roll are going to win for the pop of having a celebrity involved in the match and the celebrity not really going to lose. I think it should have just honestly been Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre and leave out Logan Paul and everything else and leave out Jelly Roll, obviously. They could have maybe had Jelly Roll as a special referee for some match or something if he wanted to get involved in a match at SummerSlam or something. I get that maybe he wanted to wrestle in a match and he's been training for it and everything, I guess, but it just seems out of place on a SummerSlam card. That could be your Saturday night's main event matchup or something, or on an episode of Raw or SmackDown or whatever. It doesn't make sense to be here on SummerSlam, but I just think Randy Orton and Jelly Roll are going to win, have that little fun moment or whatever with Randy winning, and then just maybe continue the feud between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre going forward, or maybe even start a feud between Randy Orton and Logan Paul, whatever they want to do with going from here, with this. And that's all I'm really going to say on that match, because, like I said, I couldn't really care less about that one. Moving on to the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, it's Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair challenging Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez for the Tag Team Championships. Now, I'm actually going to go with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte for this match. I think it's interesting that they put those two together. I think they kind of have been having an interesting dynamic and everything as of late on SmackDown, sort of building to them becoming friends and everything. Charlotte's kind of neglectant to be considered Alexa's friend, and Alexa just kind of wants a friend. So they kind of have that weird dynamic, or that weird chemistry going on where neither of them wants to be friends, or they don't want to partner up or whatever. They don't consider each other friends, but they will be friends by the end. And also, I think this is where maybe Liv Morgan is going to return. I don't know the severity of her injury and everything, but maybe her injury is even just a storyline that they were doing to sort of build tension within the Judgment Day and everything. Because Finn Balor sort of brought Roxanne in to replace Liv Morgan, and I think this is his whole end game, is to get Liv kicked out of Judgment Day or whatever, or to turn on Liv Morgan and set up a program between Finn and Dominic or something. And I think that kind of starts here. Liv Morgan returns, costs Raquel and Roxanne the tag titles, even though Raquel is Liv's friend. And then maybe you get that little bit of tension there between Raquel and Liv. Raquel's happy to see her, but she's also angry with her for costing them the tag team titles. And then that's kind of how they can set up this feud going forward for them. Meanwhile, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte have something to do on SmackDown now, because they can be the women's tag team champions. Next up is it's not really a random match. I just don't think it needs to be on SummerSlam necessarily. And that's Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. That was recently announced on an episode of Raw or whatever. They've done this match twice already. I think they had one at it might have been Clash of Champions, I believe, and then there was an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event that they competed on. And then now SummerSlam is the conclusion to their trilogy, I guess. I'm going with Karrion Kross here. I feel like he's got a lot of momentum going for him right now. The crowd is kind of in love with him lately. I did hear that he's possibly on his way out the door, though. That his when his contract's up, he's not going to renew it or something like that, or him and WWE can't come up with a contract negotiation and everything else, so he might just leave after that. But just for something to do in the meantime, like, I think this could lead to, like, Karrion possibly getting maybe an Intercontinental title match or something out of this. I don't necessarily see him doing anything really of importance, like going for a world title or anything, but I think a nice victory over Sami Zayn here. And he did win the first or second match, I think, between the two of them. If I'm not mistaken, they each have one win. That's kind of how these trilogies work. But I think it's like defeating somebody at the caliber of Sami Zayn would work really well for Karrion Kross, I think, for his character. And now he has something he can brag about, and he can show how truly, like, maniacal he is, I guess, where, like, I beat Sami Zayn, like, look at me, you know, kind of thing. And then he can kind of go off and do something else, fight for a title or something, and then maybe you get this kind of Sami Zayn, like, depression sort of storyline, or maybe Sami starts questioning, was Karrion right about me, and that sort of thing, and they can set up a program there for Sami Zayn trying to sort of find himself or something. So I think Karrion Kross winning here makes the most sense, I guess, in terms of the popularity that he's garnered over the last couple weeks and everything else. Next up is the WWE Women's Championship match. It's Tiffany Stratton defending against Jade Cargill. I'm going to go with Jade Cargill winning here. I would have personally liked to have seen, you know, Jade win this match, finally wins a world title in WWE after being here for like almost 4 years, I think, at this point, only for Naomi to come out and cash in her Money in the Bank and win the title off of her. I think that would have had a lot more emotion behind it and everything, and then you can continue the feud between the two of them. And it kind of didn't make any sense when they had Naomi cash in the Money in the Bank contract on the Women's World Heavyweight Championship over on Raw instead. So now that kind of ruins that almost, but I do want to see Jade, you know, win the World Championship. I think she's ready. I think she's been here long enough. You know, she's been wrestling for a good while now, even in AEW and everything. Like, they had a title on her for like over a year. But I think it's time for her to win it. I think she's on the level of some of the other superstars on the roster, like Bianca Belair, like Rhea Ripley, everything else. And I think she has that potential to be even higher than them, like almost on like Charlotte Flair's kind of level, if they would really kind of like let her loose in a way. And I think that can start here at SummerSlam with her winning the Women's Championship. Maybe this even leads to Jade versus Bianca at WrestleMania or something. Like, Bianca comes back and then starts a feud with Jade, even though, like, because we haven't really seen Bianca in a while, I don't believe. I could see Jade holding it at least until Mania, maybe even losing it before that or something. Maybe she wins the Rumble, goes back and wins it again, you know, whatever. But I do think she should win it here off of Tiffany, especially since Tiffany's held it for a good while now. Now, I think it's time for somebody new and fresh to win the championship, and Jade is that person, I believe. Now, next up is the tag team match between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. You know, this whole storyline with, like, the Seth Rollins group forming after WrestleMania and this new, like, faction that sort of Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins have kind of put together after Paul Heyman turned on Roman Reigns and CM Punk at WrestleMania, I think has just been, like, really well done, the story and everything. It is a shame that, like, Seth Rollins was injured, especially since he won Money in the Bank. I don't know if his injury is a work or if he is actually hurt or whatever, or if it's part of a story. But regardless, I think that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed need to actually win this tag team match here to really cement how powerful and dominant that this faction can be, even in the absence of Seth Rollins, even without Seth Rollins to sort of give them that guidance that they've been having since this team formed and everything, and to kind of give credence almost to what Seth has been saying, that they are the future of this company. If they can knock off the past, essentially, of this company with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, who have been here for a very long time at this point, I think that would be a big-time win for them. Maybe even put them in the tag team division after this and have them go for the tag team titles on Raw, because that division has been stagnant lately. Maybe that can set that up as well. I do wish this match was like Roman and CM Punk versus these two, because they're the ones that were tied into this, but I still think this could be at least a decent match or whatever, and it will be kind of interesting to see Roman and Jay teaming up again after everything that happened with the Bloodline and all that stuff, and with Roman and Jay's little feud that they had over the years. But I do think Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed need to win this match, because if they don't win this match, then it just kind of basically shows that they are just Seth Rollins' lackeys, and there's nothing really to them at all, and they're not really that dominant of a team or anything like that, and they're just a bunch of losers without Seth Rollins here. And you don't want that, I think, when you're, when they have like this tag team, this new faction that they're trying to build on Raw, and they keep branding them as the future and everything else. I don't think they'd want them to lose this match. I know Roman Reigns is like the biggest star they have right now, but I think he can lose matches every once in a while, and it'll be just fine. I don't think he's going to be drugged down the card just because he loses a match or something, I think for storyline purposes and everything, and to build up this new team, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker need to win this tag team match. And the last match that was announced for night 1 is the World Heavyweight Championship between CM Punk and Gunther. I know this could probably go a lot of different ways. You do still kind of have that Money in the Bank contract, lingering off in the background. Like, even if Seth Rollins is injured, like, there is a potential that maybe he's faking it and maybe he does cash in this match, or even the WWE title match on night 2. And it would kind of make sense for like Seth to sort of cash in and ruin this match or something for CM Punk, just because of the hatred he has for Punk, and to continue the feud between Punk and Seth and Roman and all that stuff. But I don't see that happening necessarily. I think that, yeah, there may be some interference or something, but whoever interferes, whether it's Seth Rollins or whoever, may inadvertently cost Gunther by mistake and lead to CM Punk winning the World Heavyweight Championship. I know some people are maybe a bit hesitant about putting the world title back on CM Punk, because he is a little older than he was back in the day, but I think he should have one more run as the World Heavyweight Champion, and especially beating someone like Gunther, I think, could really show that Punk still got it. He's still got that it factor, and he's still really good on the mic, we've seen, so having him as like the World Heavyweight Champion again, I think could work really well, especially given all the talent on both rosters, really, that he could end up competing against and everything, that could end up challenging him for the title. I think we could see a lot of really incredible matches just from Punk being the world champion. Not that Gunther isn't a good world champion either, but we've kind of already seen him as world champion just earlier this year, or WrestleMania, even as far back as that. And then now he won the title back off of Jey Uso and everything. So I think he can lose it and not really lose anything in being defeated, just go off and do something else. It was rumored that Gunther might be John Cena's last opponent, so maybe this kind of starts him down that path. Maybe he goes to SmackDown or something and starts dominating over there, and then gets a title shot at the end of the year or something, or whenever Cena's title match is that he's going to lose the title, just something like that. I don't think Gunther really loses anything in being defeated here. And maybe Punk can have a decent 4 or 5 month reign as champion, whatever, maybe even leading into WrestleMania or something. And now we're going to move on to night 2. This is the Women's Intercontinental Championship match between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. I can't remember if there was a stipulation on this match, because there's a lot of stipulations on some of these matches from night 2. It's almost like they combined SummerSlam and Extreme Rules. That's how many stipulation matches there are. But either way, I'm going to go with Becky Lynch retaining the championship here, and I think it's going to be from an interference from Bayley, where she officially turns heel again and she costs Lyra the championship, because Lyra kind of cost her the chance to go after that title again, and they've kind of had this sort of little mini feud going on, even though they're friends. They've kind of been in each other's faces and everything, and sort of been at odds with each other. And they had that triple threat match recently too with Becky. It kind of led to Bayley being mad at Lyra and Lyra being mad at Bayley, so you kind of have that little interesting dynamic there. And I think this is where they can fully cement Bayley as a heel again and freshen up her character, because she's been a babyface for a good while now. So turning her heel on someone that's a friend of hers like Lyra, in a similar manner to Becky Lynch doing the same kind of thing, turning heel on Lyra and everything. Maybe you put Bayley and Becky as a tag team or something, and they go after the women's tag team titles. But I do see them like building a feud off of this for Bayley and Lyra. That even though they kind of already started one and like hinted at one, I think this is where it's really going to kick off once Bayley costs Lyra her chance to win back the Intercontinental Championship off of Becky Lynch. Next up, this one might actually be an interesting match. It's the United States Championship match between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, and it will be contested inside a steel cage. This is the first of a couple different stipulation matches that they have going on night 2. I feel like this match, is going to be a lot of fun and everything. Maybe seeing Jacob do his like moonsault thing off a steel cage might be kind of fun or whatever. And obviously there's going to be outside interference from Solo's new bloodline that he's got going on. But I actually see Solo retaining the championship here. I don't think he's going to lose it quite yet. He just won the thing, which was kind of a big deal in a way because it's technically his first singles championship that he won on the main roster, at least in WWE. So I think they want to maybe have him keep it for a while and keep this feud with Jacob spinning. We do seem to be having, a sort of team brewing with Jacob Fatu and Jimmy Uso, so maybe they're going to sort of continue that and have Jacob and Jimmy teaming up against Solo's group. They get 2 more people, whatever. There's your War Games match later on or whatever. But I do think Solo needs to retain the championship here in order to show that he truly is the leader of this faction, that he can win whether with interference or not. Just winning in this capacity maybe. Maybe they get a third match out of this at Clash in Paris or something where it's like a last man standing or something along those lines. I think this rivalry has been kind of interesting in the way that, Jacob ended up turning on Solo and everything else. So, I think Solo should get his revenge on Jacob as many times as possible. Maybe they even introduce another new member to Solo's group and he interferes when Jacob thinks everybody's down or whatever. He thinks he's thwarted the attack of everyone else from Solo's group, and then here comes somebody else. Maybe Jimmy turns on Jacob, whatever, just to sort of build new rivalries or something out of it. But I do see Solo just retaining the championship in this steel cage match. Up next is the Intercontinental Championship match, which is AJ Styles challenging Dominic Mysterio. I think Dominic's going to retain here. I think we're starting to build a feud within the Judgment Day, like I said earlier, with the whole Liv Morgan and Raquel and Roxanne thing. So I think it's going to lead to Finn Balor challenging Dominic for the Intercontinental title somewhere down the line, maybe WrestleMania, or maybe even sooner than that, whatever. There's also maybe the scenario where AJ Styles turns heel and joins Finn Balor and the Judgment Day, and they turn on Dominic, and then, they kind of have the history with Finn Balor and AJ Styles from New Japan and everything. They end up teaming as part of Judgment Day instead or something. You always get these spinning wheels and everything. But I think Dominic, for the most part, I think he's going to retain the Intercontinental Championship against AJ Styles. I think AJ's probably not going to be winning any championships anytime soon because I think he's almost on his way out as well. And he kind of almost wants to go back to TNA, it seems like, and I think he did go back recently to TNA as well for a special appearance. So I don't really see him winning any titles anytime soon. But if it's to set up a Judgment Day feud, then I think Dominic needs to retain the championship here and go on and end up facing Finn at a later time and defending the title there and losing it to Finn or something. This next match I think is probably going to be the best, most chaotic match of the whole SummerSlam card, and the one I'm probably looking the most forward to, I think. It's the first ever really 6-team TLC match. I don't know where they came up with the idea for a TLC match, but I know I'm going to enjoy it very much. It's for the WWE Tag Team Championships, the ones that are on SmackDown currently. So it's the Wyatt Six defending against the teams of DIY, the Street Profits, Fraxium, the team of Andrade and Rey Fenix, which is kind of a random team in my opinion, and the Motor City Machine Guns. I feel like this match is going to be really fun and exciting and everything else, and I think it's really going to show that how good the tag team division has been on SmackDown. Everyone's going to get showcased here. I feel like there's going to be a lot of destruction and people going through tables, jumping off ladders, everything else. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think the Wyatt Six should win here because they only just recently won the tag team titles on like an episode of SmackDown, maybe like a month or so ago, maybe even longer than that, I'm not quite sure. So it's been like a short reign, and I think this kind of match sort of suits them, you know, in the attitude that they have and everything, where they're this like mysterious group that's all about this chaos and scaring people and all that kind of stuff. I think they would thrive in this sort of environment, and I just think they're like a really cool tag team and everything. I was a huge fan of Bray Wyatt, and I know it's kind of been stagnant until they won the tag team titles, but I love that they at least are continuing with Bray Wyatt's legacy with the Wyatt Six. So I think them like beating all the teams on SmackDown like this in this TLC match, I think would do really well for them to cement them as part of the tag team division. And I know you're probably thinking like, well, where do you go from here if they beat every team? But I'm sure they'll come up with something. There's a lot of one-on-one tag team matches that they haven't done yet as champions. So like there's a lot of spinning wheels they have there as well. So they can continue out of this and still have feuds and everything. So I think the Wyatt Six will retain the tag team titles in this TLC match, and I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. Up next is the Women's World Heavyweight Championship triple threat match between Naomi, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. I think Naomi's going to retain here just because, like, obviously she did just win the championship, and I think now that she's got this new character, you know, where she's got this, like, not really darker side of herself necessarily, but this more like devious and destructive side of her, and this like really mean and vicious side. I think they need to really capitalize on that and have her beating someone like Rhea Ripley, who's been kind of known for that, where she's like this dominant force in the women's division. I think would work really well for Naomi. I like that Naomi's at least here, and now they kind of moved her to Raw to sort of add some life to the women's division, and I think they'd want to continue that by having her retain the championship. And finally, it's the WrestleMania 41 rematch between Cody Rhodes and John Cena for the WWE Championship. It is a street fight, apparently, so there's yet another stipulation match for a championship on night 2. But anyways, I think John Cena is actually going to retain the championship here. I do think it's going to be a brutal match between the two of them. Maybe there will even be some blood involved or something. Maybe they'll start showing blood again in WWE just to really capitalize on the chaos of the match and everything else, and how much these two hate each other, and you know how desperate, you know, Cody Rhodes is to win the championship and everything. And I think if Cena would just barely eke out a win, and especially without the Travis Scott stuff to interfere, maybe The Rock interferes or something, and this is what sets up Cody versus The Rock later on or something. But even without interference, maybe Cena just barely wins, and that makes Cody so angry that this is where he like turns heel now officially, and maybe this is where Cena, you know, it's like a double turn, like people are theorizing that will happen. You know, Cody turns heel and Cena turns babyface by being attacked by Cody Rhodes in a vicious way, like Cody just snaps or something to try and injure Cena, to try and end his career early or something, and he just kind of flips out, but Cena does retain the championship. Now I think is where you can add in that Seth Rollins cash-in after this match, whether or not that part of it happens, the Cody turning heel and attacking Cena like that, but just from the brutality, I think, of the match that we're going to see, both men are going to be really weak coming out of it, so Seth cashing in here would make sense. I know Seth is injured, like I said, but maybe this is all just part of the plan. He's pretending he's injured, he's pretending his injury is more severe than it is, so that no one will expect him to cash in the Money in the Bank. If Cena does retain, then I think he's going the whole way to the end of the year as champion, honestly. But I think one way or another, John Cena will find some kind of way to win this match and keep his title reign going for as long as possible, and that can lead off into other things like for Cody Rhodes and everything else. But there you go, guys. Those were my predictions for SummerSlam nights 1 and 2. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win all these matches? What do you think is going to happen? Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. And if you're a wrestling fan, check out all the other wrestling content we've uploaded in the past on this channel as well. and keep an eye out for anything we will upload in the future. But regardless, thank you for watching the video, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.